Hello and welcome to another episode of our book club. I'm here again today with Amrit Malhotra, who's a registered social worker in Ontario, Canada. And once again, I'm Stephanie Dobson, founder, CEO, and content creator for Up a Notch Learning. Welcome again, Amrit.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yeah, this has been so much fun talking about all these various books. So today we're here to talk about, I'll hold up my ebook and Amrit, you can hold up your real book, the paperback book. It's called When Harry Left Sally, and it's by Marion Korn and Sachs. And interestingly, I was looking to buy the book in paperback because I do actually prefer reading in paperback. I feel like I'm away from the screen and I'm away from my computer. I love sitting down with a good book. But I found when I went to look on Amazon, I found that I could only order the Kindle edition. So Amrit, did you buy your book quite a while back?
It has been some time, yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's maybe the difference. But interestingly, I found because when I'm doing the book club, I have to actively read with, and Amrit, you can show your sticky notes again. So we have to actively read and kind of make notes. And I found that actually in the Kindle edition, I could do that. I learned how to highlight and how to add bookmarks and tabs and even print out my notes. So it was really good. So as our viewers are looking to possibly purchase this book, you may find it in paperback or hardcover somewhere. In my experience, I just got it recently and I found that it was only available in the Kindle edition. So let's get started by talking about the central idea in this book and what the author explores. So what I found was I summarized it by saying it was really about gray divorce. So it's about when Harry left Sally, or when Sally left Harry, or when Sally left Sally, or Harry left Harry. You know, it's really all about that gray divorce. Did you have anything else to add to what you saw as the central topic?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add that it's when couples are thinking about their personal freedom and retirement at the same time, right? Which often happens around that age group.
Yeah, and there's been a few books that I've been looking at recently about gray divorce, and it is really a different can of worms when you're divorcing, when you're, 55 plus, when you may not have kids at home, you may be looking more at retirement and the possible threat to that retirement, and really how do you divorce in a way that is constructive and that really tries to help you for the rest of your future, be future focused and positive focused. And so I found that this was a really good book in that respect.
Yes, well, it definitely gives some helpful information for navigating how to deal with the adult children and dealing with the loyalty binds and the finances and the changes in status. So it's the importance of dealing with qualified professionals as you go through it.
Yeah, and it is so different when you've got adult children, and a lot of divorcing material talks about how to talk to younger children and help them to absorb what is it going to look like, living in two homes. And this is more, when you've got adult children and you're trying to help them to understand what's it going to be like, coming home to mom's house and home to dad's house when they may not be living with you anymore. So it's a very interesting perspective, different than the other books that we've been reading.
True, absolutely. It is a bit different.
Yeah. So as far as what I really liked about the book, we are both Canadian, and so I had to pick that out. That I didn't even have to look at the very beginning pages that told me that the authors were Canadian. There's lots and lots of Canadian references. Of course, this book can be helpful to people inside or outside of Canada, but there was definitely some Canadian references, so that made me smile as I was reading through it.
Yes, no, for sure. And also it's a short and sweet version, right?
Yes.
It's a compact guide. It's very dissimilar to the other books that we've read in the past. It deals with normalizing some of the reactions, short-term, long-term goals. The examples that were provided makes it really relatable. And I do think that anyone who's considering a gray divorce should really consider picking this up to understand some of the ramifications of the decisions. It did note that when there are mental health concerns or intimate partner violence or addictions issues or codependency issues, diminished capacity, chronic illness or high conflict communication, family professionals and supportive team and a structured approach would be helpful. So they did have a little bit of a caveat in that. I think that's important to note.
Yeah, and there was a whole chapter on that we'll get into a little bit later in today's talk about using various divorce professionals and how that can be helpful and how that can be structured.
Yes.
For sure. When you talk about it being an easy read, I loved that I could sit down on a Saturday afternoon and I read the whole thing from start to finish. Our deadline for this book club was quickly approaching, and I thought, oh, I better get that book read. And lucky for me, I was able to just sit down on the couch. It was a nice, relaxing Saturday afternoon with a cup of coffee, and I was able to get through it in 2-3 hours. So, and that was even with my notes on my Kindle edition, learning how to use those notes. It was a really easy read. And, when families are overwhelmed by the separation and divorce, and to sit down and read another book, or to absorb more information, or another checklist, or another thing to do, it can be really tough to want to seek out more resources like this. And so I really appreciated the shortness of it, from the divorcing family's point of view, that they can really get a lot out of it without it taking days and days to read, or weeks and weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I found, though, as I was reading through, is I did find that it was slower to get started. It really, that was just my perspective. There was some good information in those first few chapters, but it really started to flow in the later chapters. In chapters 3 and 4 is when I really started to kind of settle into maybe that second cup of coffee, and was able to really pick it up, because there was a lot of statistics and kind of that beginning stuff that was more difficult. And did you have that same impression, or did you have a different impression?
I do agree with you that there was a lot of statistical information that was provided, and I kind of wanted to get to the stuff. I wanted to hear the meat, of the story. So, but I do like this overall. I do think that this is a good guide for people, and it's a good way to kind of have all of your information in one spot about things to consider as you're moving forward, so that people can pause a little bit.
Well, and when for us, when we're reading this for this purpose, for our book club, of course, we read it from cover to cover, and sometimes a couple times, or reread things and put notes. But so we're more actively reading. But to the divorcing family, if you're reading this, you can skip over the stuff that is more boring to you, or that doesn't fit with you. And so I would encourage you to, if you're finding as well that the first few chapters are a little bit more difficult or more boring, or you're not really into it, is get to those later chapters, because the information in this book is really, really valuable to divorcing families. So it's not that it's bad information, it's just that it's a little bit slower is what I found.
Yes.
The other piece, I thought it was interesting. So I've got a family law background, and one of the comments in there, and everyone takes something in a little bit of a different way, but one of the comments I found that was very absolutist. It talked about the difference between a social worker and a lawyer dealing with parenting plans and dealing with children. And, there's a lot of lawyers, the authors are right. There's a lot of lawyers who do not take a developmentally sensitive or a child-centered approach to parenting plans. But there are also a lot of lawyers who do a lot of training in this area, and I'm one of them. And I know a lot of our colleagues do a lot of this kind of specialized training, collaborative divorce lawyers and divorce mediators. We do a lot of this kind of training to be developmentally sensitive. And so you can trust us as lawyers in, with issues with respect to your children. So
that's a great point. I just want to echo that. When you're collaboratively trained, you are child focused and family focused, right? In reaching that settlement. So that is a very good point.
Yeah. So why don't we start with some examples of some of the things that we liked, some of the concepts that we thought that were explained really well. Did you want to start first?
Certainly. I like on page 47, it talks about what am I getting from the marriage that I need? So kind of listing it, and a checklist for people to just kind of, note what's
Mhm.
important and what they're not getting. So noticing where they're unfulfilled in their needs, and where they're not being met, and how partners may have to put aside their own needs from the relationship, especially after raising children. And they talked about feeling appreciated and having opinions valued, and having your own contributions recognized, that are all factors that can bolster self-esteem. So I think that was really important, an important point. I think also on page 103, they talk about suggestions for having your adult children. So helping them
Mhm.
to cope with the divorce, which I thought was very important. And then on page 117, they spoke about factors that can affect the financial futures of both men and women in late divorce. And they gave some critical points, such as gap in earnings between men and women, the decline in company funded pensions, the decline in continuity of employment, increased likelihood of existing debt, and increased well-being and prospect of longer life. So those are the things that really struck me. What about yourself, Stephanie?
Well, I have a quote that I really liked from chapter 3. For me, I don't have any page numbers. I don't often read on Kindle, and it talked about a place, or something. They use some kind of a reference. I can't remember, but marker number 103 or something like that. So, anyways, I don't have any page numbers, but for me, it was in chapter 3, and it talked about the importance of the first step. So I really loved the comparison. I love comparisons generally that talk about comparing a wedding to a divorce. And I
Mhm.
find it, people don't actually like these kind of references. When I talk with my clients, they don't like the references like speak now until forever hold your peace, or you don't have to speak now or forever hold your peace, or, these kind of wedding type references. But in this one, I just want to read it because I thought it was really impactful for me. So it said, if you hand your wedding over to a planner without considering the budget or understanding how the decisions will be made or how options will be presented and reviewed, you will likely lose control of the outcome. Although there is benefit because someone else will do all the work, the results may not be what you wanted. Also, the less you are personally involved, the harder it will become to control all the costs. All of this is to say that it is the rare couple who would choose to hand over all the decision making to a third party when it involves a major life event. And so, what I really liked about that was taking that in chapter 3 and following it with chapter 6 and 7. So chapter 6 was about process and talking about the benefits of, not just saying I'm divorcing and therefore I need to hire a lawyer, but thinking about the type of lawyer you would want to hire and the type of professional you'd want to hire. And so, you may need a mental health coach, or divorce coach, mental health
Mhm.
professional, a financial specialist, a lawyer, a business valuator, a realtor, various different people who can all come together and help you. And just because you have 6 people on a team or 6 professionals on a team, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be 6 times the cost. You could be sectioning certain things out to this type of professional and that type of professional. And because they've all got their specialties, you can really customize and craft your settlement in the way that is most meaningful to your family in a constructive way. And then it followed that up with chapter 7, which was about the law, talking about the difference between legal entitlements versus self-determination of one's future and the power to make your own agreements. So the law is based on entitlements and legal principles. And then there's the above and beyond, where we actually look at what's important to you, interest-based resolution. And that's what various professionals like collaborative divorce professionals or mediators do. And so, I really thought that was empowering to say to families, it's important that you make the decisions that keep you in the driver's seat, and don't just go to a lawyer and say, I'm divorcing. What do we do next? Or, you tell me and I'm in your hands. You'd want to take some leadership, of course, and listen to your divorce professionals, but understanding what options you have and really staying in the driver's seat at all times is really key. And I thought the book was great at outlining that.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching, even just looking at the courses that Stephanie offers through Up a Notch Learning will also be key here in just kind of informing you as you go through the process. So this book is great, but you got to check out those courses that Stephanie's offering because they really are amazing. So shameless plug for you there, Stephanie.
Thanks. Yeah, the course that Amrit is referring to is called Healthy Thriving Families 101, and it's all the basics. And so how to choose a professional and how to choose a process and how to talk to the children about separation and divorce wellness and some of, those fundamental things. And when we were talking earlier about how do you absorb one more piece of information? And that's why, this book is short and sweet. And those courses that are available, that you can either pay for the full course and have all 7 modules, or you can buy each module separately, module by module. And so we really try to encourage people to make things digestible for them. So, if you just need one little bit of help, then you just buy one module. So
perfect.
Thanks. Okay. So what part impacted you the most?
So I really like the checklist. I thought that was really, really helpful, short and concise. And I really like the resources in the back of the book because I think the do's and don'ts, the words of wisdom, I think that was really helpful also to hear from all the different professionals. So that has value. Stephanie, you've muted yourself.
I muted myself. There you go. So let's just reflect for a moment on the checklist. So this gives, I wrote down a few of those because I had that on my list as well, the checklist that I love. So some of them that I had made note of: questions to ask oneself when visualizing a future separate from your current partner, questions about to stay or to leave, how to help your children cope, and how to tell your friends. So excellent. I thought those were really good ones. And of course, the how to questions about to stay or to leave, that was a real, a much more truncated version of our other book club that we've done about to stay or to leave. And so I thought it was really good because it went into good depth, but not too much depth, so as to remain an easy read. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I saw there was a few things that I thought as were significant or quite memorable for me. And one of the pieces was in the final chapter. I really appreciated that the authors turned the pages over to other divorce professionals. And so, it's actually similar to what we're doing at Up a Notch Learning with our interview series, where we're interviewing lots of different divorce professionals and getting their expertise and being able to bring that to the world. So I'll just give you some examples. So there was a family wealth advisor and for divorce, financial planning, and business owners, a business realtor, business valuator, real estate sales representative, a mortgage broker, a lawyer, an estate planning lawyer, financial advisor, and a social worker for the emotional issues, and then an executive coach. So I thought those ones were really helpful. They were actually quite refreshing. Right at the very end of the book, you kind of turn the pages or kind of turn the topic a little bit. So because after you've kind of finished reading, it gives you that little second wind to hear a different perspective.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed that as well. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely significant for me. I think that on page 105, one of the things that was noted was the advice and support offered from friends and families, right? So with the separation and divorce, it's a legal, financial, and emotional event, and that your friends and family are not likely trained to give advice and addresses all the aspects. So I know that you speak about the Greek
spectator
gallery, so that's really significant, and that no two families are the same, and no two separations are the same. So good intentions are not the same as good advice. And that your friends and family will appreciate hearing from you, that their support is important, whether you're able to take their advice or not. And the perspective is key, right? Only you can stand in your shoes, and those who care about you can never see things exactly in the same way as you can. And whatever you do moving forward will impact potentially the relationships in the future. So maybe seek that external advice that's neutral in getting what you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I think about the kinds of things that I learned or got a new perspective on, I really appreciate hearing about statistics. And so even though that's in what we called earlier, the slower part of the book, I really appreciated hearing that. So kind of two different comments on that piece of it. But I thought it was interesting about the statistics. I'll just name a couple of them that I thought was interesting. So in Canada, between 1998 and 2008, of course, it reflects that the average age of divorcing men and women increased. Not the number, but the actual average age. And then a study in 2012 by Susan Brown and Fen Lin of Bowling Green State University shows that the divorce rate has doubled in the US since 1990. So, and so in 1990, approximately 200,000 people over the age of 50 got divorced, whereas in 2009, that number was just over 600,000. So I thought that was very eye-opening, and I always appreciate all statistics are kind of boring to the average person. I thought that was very interesting to note, and it's reflective of why material like this is very important because it is a different dynamic, as we were saying earlier, than if you're divorcing when you're younger or have a full career ahead of you, or you've got young children.
No, excellent. I do think it's eye-opening to see the numbers increasing like that. And the other thing was, I noticed that on page 137, they talk about calculating the price of change, matching the dreams and plans to your budget. Okay, and this was noted by executive coach Sharon Ranson, and the importance of that and recognizing that what you may hope and what you're thinking it's going to be like in the future may not actually match, and just coming to terms with the reality of what it is that you're going to be facing, just so that you're making an informed decision moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. So what do you think about the intended audience? Do you think that it was suited for its intended audience, which is, of course, as we talked about at the beginning, the gray divorce, the family who's divorcing later in life? What did you think?
Absolutely. I think that this is agreed. This is for couples that are divorcing in later life and addressing all of those issues. What about yourself?
Yeah, and I think that the intended audience is, of course, for people who are in that emotional state. And so I think it being an easy read, and the language of the book went on with that, the easiness of that read. And I think that made it really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us again, Amrit. And to our viewers, we encourage you to go and have a look. Again, this is the book. Oops, can I see it? There we go. When Harry Left Sally. And we encourage you to get it either in paperback or in the Kindle edition, which of course is the only one I could find. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.